All right, here it is. The top three games of 2011. Starting with number three, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. What a perfect swan song for the Nintendo Wii. And that's what it is. This is the last hurrah of the Nintendo Wii. It's on its way out. I think motion controls in general maybe are on their way out. I think it's established itself as sort of a fad. But I think this game is the perfect expression of the motion sensor tool, gameplay mechanic. Almost everything in this game is based around the Wii Motion Plus, and it really is the best for that. I think it's better than Twilight Princess. I've thought about this for a while, which was the other Wii Zelda game. I mean, that really wasn't even a Wii Zelda game. It was a GameCube Zelda game that they took forever to make and kept postponing, so they released it on Wii. And it doesn't look as good as it maybe should. But I mean, obviously, I'm not saying anything against that game. Twilight Princess, excellent game, but I think Skyward Sword beats it because I think for the first time I really felt like the sword play was center stage. Because enemies will block your attacks in a certain way that you have to swing your sword in a certain direction. With the Wii Motion Plus, Wii Remote Plus, with it built in, and this game, the special edition, came with one that came with it. Uh, with that, there's a one-to-one sword movement, and it really is responsive. I was a little bit skeptic, as one intends to be when it comes to motion controls, that it wouldn't really work, but it does. I mean, you swing your sword vertically down, Link will swing his sword vertically down. You swing it vertically up, Link will do the same. And, you can do a spin slash by swinging both the Wii Remote and the nunchuck at the same time. You can even do like a vertical spin slash by flinging them both up at the same time. And, I really feel like a lot of the bosses, and regular enemies too, maybe even every enemy, with a few exceptions, require that you pay attention to which direction you're swinging your sword. And you will suck at this game if you don't. I mean, there are enemies you cannot kill. I mean, a lot of enemies, most enemies, you can't kill unless you hit them with the proper sword swing. And as such, each enemy almost feels like a little puzzle in and of itself. Like the first time I saw a Skulltula hanging down, I couldn't hurt him at all. Its carapace was completely solid. And it took me forever to figure out how to kill one of these things. But then I tried a spin slash, and it spun him around, and then there was a little weak point right on his belly, and then I stabbed, and that hurt him. And even better, when they're on the ground, and their hard carapace is on the top, and you try to smash them down, and they don't do anything, you actually have to put your sword like on the ground, and then flick them up, and then that'll flip them over, and then you can stab down into their soft underbelly. I thought that was so cool. That was like the first enemy that I was like, wow. This game, maybe for the first time since Wind Waker, each enemy really feels like its own mini challenge. I think that just the little things like that is what really made me feel attached to this experience. Um, yeah, and all the other elements use Wii Motion Plus as well, like flying your bird, which some people have complained gets a little annoying. I didn't find it to be that annoying. I thought it was fine. Some people say that the Wii Motion Plus, using it all the time, makes your wrist hurt. I didn't. I think that's a stupid complaint. I mean, I guess I didn't play it for 7 hours at a time. Suppose it would after you played it for 7 hours at a time. But this doesn't seem like much of a complaint to me. And I'll say, like, because of that sword play, the boss fights are more interesting. The game in general is more interesting, just because of that one little mechanic that adds so much. That being said, I also think that some of the dungeons in this game are some of the best designed dungeons. Like, some of them really stumped me in some places. And I don't want to ruin too many things, but there's one dungeon where you basically can switch, you can take a part of the temple back in time. And some things exist in the future that don't exist in the past, or in the present that don't exist in the past, and some things exist in the past that don't exist in the present. And you have to, choose. Do I need to make this part? Do I need to take this part into the past? And there are some enemies that will become activated when you go into the past. And there's even one little part in the game where there's you carry an orb that will time shift anything within its vicinity, and you can actually just move around the dungeon and time shift things as you move, and it's just really really unique. And that's just one example. I don't want to ruin any of the other dungeons, but the dungeons are some of the best part of this game, and so is the overworld. This game, for those of you entirely unfamiliar, it sort of has like this sky area, which acts kind of like the Great Sea in Wind Waker. There's like little treasure chests you can get, like and like the main hub world is in the sky, if you will, and then you can dive down to the surface, to the overworld, and that's really where the main gameplay takes place. And the overworld actually kind of plays out like dungeons themselves. There's a lot of puzzle solving involved with the overworld, and this game I think only has, I say only, but like it's still a lot, 7 official dungeons, and there have been Zelda games with more, but it doesn't need more because, like I said, the overworld plays out like a dungeon, and a lot of times you'll get items in the overworld, and then there are these other segments called the Silent Realm, and I don't want to ruin anything about them, but they are unique for their own reasons. And then, it constantly throws little unique gameplay tweaks at you to make the experience feel constantly fresh. There's also an upgrade system in this game that they had never employed before to upgrade your items, which is a little bit pedestrian, and for those used to hardcore upgrading systems, it's going to feel a little bit simple, but it worked for me. I thought it was a nice little addition, sort of similar, just like a little tweak. Every Zelda game has to have a little tweak, just like the Kinstones were a little tweak in Minish Cap. The upgrade system was a little tweak in this game. And I think the best improvement that this game has over, I'm going to say it, any other Zelda game in the franchise is that for once I finally care about the plight of the main characters. Link has always just been an avatar for the character, pretty much, and not much of a personality. He'd get surprised by bosses, and that's pretty much it. But I think with a combination of the expressions that they put on Link's face and the way that everyone feels like a real character, I finally give a crap about Link. And Zelda too. Like, she's finally a person, whereas in Twilight Princess she was just this distant, emotionless non-character. She finally feels like a real person, and there's a bit of a love story, and I finally care about the characters, and I think that maybe more than anything else really attached me to this game. It's a prequel story. There's some nice winks for those longtime fans of the series to future installments, and I think it is a Zelda lover's dream. It is certainly a Wii owner's dream. It's maybe the first time that I really felt proud of motion controls, which is sad because it's probably the last time. And I've gone on way too long about this game, but I love Zelda and I love Skyward Sword. Okay, number 2 is a game that really requires no introduction. Portal 2. I did not expect to put this game this high on the list. But even after all those epic stories and, moments of intense gunfighting, this little silly game by Valve ekes them out above almost all the rest. I just thought this game was so deeply charming and wholly fun. There was not a moment in this game where I wasn't having a lot of fun. Even during the more story-heavy, dialogue-heavy parts of the game, I was still totally in love with the world. All the characters, like the new ones like Wheatley and Cave Johnson, were both just hilarious and different in their own ways. And of course, GLaDOS returns because it's a Portal game. You can't have a Portal game without GLaDOS. And she's hilarious too. And, it really is just a constantly really, really funny game. And, what's a funny game? Okay, games can be funny but it's not really a good game unless it has the chops to back it up, and boy does it ever. The puzzles are back in full force. I don't think it ever really throws down the gauntlet of puzzle solving craziness until about the last third of the game, when you start getting towards excursion funnels and the gels. When you mix those two elements, I didn't really bend my brain super hard until then. But still, I thought the puzzle solving was great. The atmosphere, even though it's a lot of, these whitewashed panels, the game feels so alive, even though you're the only living character in the whole thing. Your main character is the only living character in the whole game, and she doesn't say a word or even have a notable reaction of any kind. One of my favorite parts of the game was when you sort of go down into the old part of the facility, and that's when Cave Johnson makes his first appearance. And it's sort of and it every all the test chambers look sort of more homemade and rusty and old, like with plywood and stuff like that. And I just loved that part of the game. I loved every part of this game. I've played it through 3 times. One of these days I'll get back to playing the co-op with Odin Spec, which is a shame because I heard the co-op is. I've played a little bit of the co-op, and it's great, and the puzzles are harder in the co-op because it requires 2 minds instead of one. And I don't feel like I need to say too much about this game. I just think Valve. I don't think Valve can do any wrong at this point. I think they delivered in every way they could with Portal 2. They didn't dwell on the original too much, which I was really worried about. I didn't want there to be, cake is a lie jokes. Because, I mean, like, every frickin' person on the internet makes cake is a lie jokes. It's less mimetic than the original. It celebrates the original while not dwelling on it, and that's pretty much all you can ask for a sequel. I loved Portal 2. I really did. And just great job, Valve. It's a great game. All right, and finally, my game of the year for 2011. Probably pretty predictable. It's everyone else's game of the year, but it really deserves it, in my humble opinion, and that's The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. I loved The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I've probably put more time into that game than any game ever, except maybe Pokemon Blue or WoW, maybe. But Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, it just improves on Oblivion in every way imaginable. The world, the characters feel real. And, it's still sort of a Bethesda game in that the characters aren't as expressive as you would maybe like, but there's so many of them and there's so much content that you just forgive them. Maybe up close the graphics are a little bit muddy, and maybe there are a lot of glitches. Maybe there's a good bit of glitches in this game, and there kind of are. But I don't care, because I step into this game world and I lose myself. And I think that is what is really at the core, the most important part of a video game, is losing yourself in a world. And I think that no one has harnessed that unique magic quite like Bethesda has. They did it with Fallout, they did it with Oblivion, and they've perfected it with Skyrim. I dip into Skyrim, and then, 5 hours later, I'll realize that I've been in Skyrim for 5 hours, and I gotta do work or something. It just draws you in and holds you, and it gives you so many things, it's almost overwhelming. There are side quests, there are main quests, there are miscellaneous quests, there are non-quests, there are just goofing around and stealing stuff because you can. You can just do literally nothing in this game and still have an excellent time. Which is a shame because the something part of the game is phenomenal. The main story is great. The gameplay is excellent. They finally made spellcasting fun. They finally made archery not a stupid choice. They finally balanced it out. They finally made leveling something that makes sense. They finally made me want to increase my skills constantly, and they made every goal a viable one. And I just think that Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is the ultimate expression of Bethesda in making a game that is so absorbent. And they pack it all onto one disc. I mean, not only does it defy what I thought was probable, it defies what I thought was possible to put on a single disc. It is a gigantic game world, and each dungeon, whereas like in Oblivion, the dungeons sort of felt a little samey after a while. Of course, that switch is going to open that door. Of course, there's going to be the alien ruins. They were all the same. But I feel like in this game, each dungeon is handcrafted and unique. Of course, you're going to be fighting waves of Draugrs, which are these undead creatures. By the game's end, you're going to have fought and killed thousands of them. But, I put 101 hours into this game, and I still have not scratched the surface. Of course, I dug rather deep into the surface, But there are so many side quests I missed, so many miscellaneous quests I've missed, and just because I made like a sort of a fighter character, sort of a warrior character, I've missed out on 75% of the game just in committing to one sort of character class. I could play again as an archer and have a completely different experience. As a thief, as a mage, thief, archer, and each and every time, it's unique. And I really think that Skyrim exists as, you know, just a tribute to that sort of game, where you can just enter a game world, have nearly unlimited possibilities at your fingertips, and you just go and you do what you want. And frankly, Skyrim is not only the best game I played this year, it's the best game I've played in years. Maybe the best game since 2007's Portal. It is just an excellent game. And I really hope that you check it out, because I think if you're into this kind of thing, and maybe even if you're not, it's just an excellent experience. I really can't say much more than that, because that's all there is to say. And that was my top 10 list. My top 10 games of 2011. Yep. So what will 2012 be like? I gotta be honest, it's the first time in a while where I'm not like, well, this year was good, but next year. This is the first time where I'm like, well, 2012 may not be as good as 2011. But only time will tell. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.